Hi, I'm Elizabeth Scholl.
And I'm Michael Scholl. We're the parents of 3 Wellesley Theater Project alumni, as well as 2 of the founding board members of WTP. Many of you probably heard the story how Wellesley Theater Project was created around our dining room table.
But what you may not know is it actually began when I was 8 years old. See, I grew up in this very small town in Central Florida where they had a championship football team, but no program for the arts. And I was very lucky because my single mom was able to sign me up at a community theater that offered classes for youth theater. And I gotta tell you, this was possible because there was this wonderful, generous donor in the community who set up a little scholarship fund for families like me who needed a little extra help. And it completely changed my life. I can't even describe it. It was a profound effect on me personally, as a child growing up in this very small town, and it had an incredible effect on the community. And in fact, it really kind of shaped my life and made me also realize the power of philanthropy.
Elizabeth and I met when we were in college, and from day one I could see this in her and as a part of her very soul, the importance of the arts. We lived in Chicago and she worked for a couple of major arts institutions in the city. We moved to Denver and she continued her philanthropy work. And we ended up moving back to Florida for my job, and not too far away from this very small town that Elizabeth was just talking about. And of course, what did we decide to do but enroll our 3 children in the very same program?
Yes. Well, before long, I became their executive director.
And I became the treasurer.
Well, he's a numbers guy, so it was great because he just jumped right on in there and we had a lot of fun. A funny story, a lot of you may not realize that Hillary actually is our niece, and she in fact grew up in the very same theater that I did and had the very same theater teacher, Deborah Carpenter, who is kind of gruff in her personality. And in fact, she would often say, you'd say, "How you doing, Deborah?" And she'd say,
"I'm living." Yes,
very, very different style than our sweet Hillary. But before long, Hillary, who was just pursuing a theater degree at the time, actually was nearly done, and she was ready for the next challenge, and she kind of took on the challenge of taking this youth theater program to the next level.
The youth theater program was really amazing, but what was incredible was the sense of family and community at that 100-year-old place down in Central Florida. Elizabeth, myself, and our 3 daughters would do shows together. And in fact, in 2004, the 5 of us and Hillary all were on stage together in Oliver.
I think it was the last time she was on stage.
It may have been the last time, but that show ran for 5 weekends and had about 26 performances, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, it was pretty awesome stuff. So by now, Hillary and Ben were very involved as teaching artists, and also Ben was on stage, and if he wasn't on stage, he was teching a show. And his father, who is a retired legendary theater educator in the state of Florida who won countless awards.
Some of you may know him as Mr. Rush.
Exactly. He was also involved. He was directing shows. He was in shows. You were in shows with him.
I actually had the pleasure of being on stage both with Mr. Rush as well as with a younger Ben Rush.
Yes.
Doing those shows with Mr. Rush and Hillary and my wife and all 3 of my daughters established this incredible connection between family and theater, and it changed my life as well. It wasn't just her whose life changed. It just happened to me at a later time. And when we moved to Boston about 11 years ago now, we were the weird couple that instead of looking at test scores or how good the sports teams were, we were interviewing the music directors, the drama teachers, looking at the different auditoriums. we were kind of those weirdos.
Yes. And just like I'm sure all of you can relate, we were driving around our kids to find the opportunities that were for them to follow their passions. And
we really wanted to involve them in theater, but in the school system, it didn't start till middle school.
Right.
And so we're driving a lot.
Yeah. But the light bulb moment was actually when our 6th grade daughter, Hannah, was cast in Fiddler on the Roof and at the middle school. And we look up on stage and there's 150 kids up there and they're all having a ball. And that's when we realized it wasn't just us. There were lots of people who wanted to be involved with theater. So what happened next was we got this idea in our head. And the next time we were in Florida,
it was Thanksgiving.
Yep, immediately after. And we called a meeting with Ben and Hillary, who, interesting story, met us during intermission of a show that we all went to go see. And we presented our scheme that this really needed to happen. We really needed to start a new nonprofit youth theater program right here in Massachusetts, and they needed to move here and help us do it. So that's exactly what we did.
We knew this crazy scheme would work because we knew the character of Ben and Hillary. They were tenacious. They were skilled. They knew how to make a lot out of a little.
Yeah.
So what's even more amazing, though, is that they both took a leap of faith, packed up the bags, and moved to Wellesley.
Yes.
Hills, that is.
Yeah, so, and I tell you, now we're back to our dining room table, and when we sat around that table, it just really makes me so happy to know that one of the things we made a promise to about in that moment was we were going to make it possible for anyone who had financial need to be able to attend Wellesley Theater Project. And so that was a very special moment for me to see that full circle.
A really important thing for everybody to know is that when we started Wellesley Theater Project, we didn't have a benefactor. We didn't have an angel investor. What we had was friends and family. And around that dining room table, we literally worked on our application for our 501c3 status. And then we started fundraising. We were able to raise $20,000 from friends and family in chunks from 5 to 25 to maybe 50 or 100. It was a community effort. And one thing that I think probably very few people know is how tight things were when we first started. Almost all of that money went into our rent. We had to pay first and last month's rent and a security deposit.
At Wellesley Square.
At Wellesley Square. And most people don't know this, but when we first started, for several months, Ben and Hillary did not take a salary. They lived in our basement. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry for that. But no, they lived in our basement and didn't take a salary.
But they started right away. They jumped right in. They made extraordinary, wonderful hires, and including our very first choreographer, Hannah Shanadian,
who's still with us today.
Yes, and really started to grow the organization. And I think going back to your point, what made it work was because they wore multiple hats. They, again, so young, and Hillary was doing all the front of house operations and marketing, communication efforts, and fundraising, and also teaching.
Ben's climbing 30-foot ladders, hanging lights. Ben and Hillary are both building props and sewing costumes.
Yep. Ben's designing and building sets and
directing. During intermission, they're running from the back of the stage to the front of the house to do intermission, the intermission stuff. And
so those are the early days, and it when we stop and we take a moment and we reflect on that now, I hope you all understand the true thanks that we are constantly giving all of you, because they started this, but it continues to grow and get stronger every day because of all of you who continue to take part in some way, and that's what's making it possible. In the beginning, we were doing these visioning exercises and talking about ripple effects, how we wanted the work that we were doing to have these positive ripple effects with our students and our community, and in fact, the world, which is the whole impetus of the citizen artist concept.
I really feel like those ripple effects are out there rippling. We have an alumni association. We have a strong community of families that have supported us with their time, with their financial support. It's really, we're so very thankful and grateful.
And I know we're just getting started.
Yeah. I remember the first Wellesley Town Parade. Ben and I stayed up all night working on a set for the very first production of Seussical.
Crazy.
And we were scrambling in the morning to attach it to a trailer. And as we're driving to the parade route, the set collapsed and fell off the side of the road, and we abandoned it in front of the junior college. And I think about that, and then Elizabeth, look behind you. I think about how far we've come with your help, with your love, and with your support.
We're so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.